your hand, I'll be more than happy to answer the questions. Sinan, just put that away, please. Thank you. So there's two different ways that we talked about. And if you guys remember last class period, the main important thing we said was before we multiply, we simplify. Simplify, simplify, simplify. So, Jake, thank you. So the main important thing, there's two different ways we learned how to do this. One, you could use prime factorization. So we could rewrite x to the fifth and y to the fifth as x times x times x times x times x and y times y times y times y times y.
But why?
Does everybody understand that x multiplied by itself 5 times is the same thing as x to the fifth power?
Yeah.
OK. And y multiplied by itself 5 times is the same thing as y to the fifth. Now, when we're taking the square root, what we're basically looking to do is looking into taking what number multiplied by itself. Well, I have two x's that are multiplied by myself. So the square root of x times x is x. I have another pair of two x's, so that's going to be times x. I have a pair of y's, and I have another pair of y's. So that's y times y. Left over under the radical is going to be the square root of xy. So therefore, this is simplified to x times x, which is x squared, and y times y, which is y squared. Then, if we're going to go and simplify this, I can obviously do that exactly the same way. But I'm just going to try to save some space. And rather than multiplying x multiplied by itself 7 times and y multiplied by itself 6 times, we can also use what we call the product rule. And what the product rule allows us to do is rather than write them as writing them out, I can also write them as squareds. Because you guys should know that, yes, you can take the square root of x times x, which is the same thing as x squared, right? So if I use the product rule, I can break down x to the 7th as x squared times x squared times x squared times x. Do you guys agree that x squared times x squared times x squared times x gets to x to the 7th? Because what the product rule says, when you multiply exponents, you add the powers. So this is the same thing as x to the 7th. Sorry, there's a 2 in there as well.
Okay. So
And then y to the 6 can be broken down into y squared times y squared times y squared. Now, I'm simplifying these diffs separately, but you can only do it this way if you like, or you could also do this one doing this way. But what I'm doing, I'm just doing a different way so you guys can see how it works. Now, do I know a number that multiplied by itself to give you 2? 2 times 2 gives you 4. 1 times 1 gives you 1. So there is not a number, Zach, that multiplies to give me 2. So that's going to have to remain under the radical. All right, so let's go. Can I take the square root of x squared? Yes, that is just going to be x. The square root of x squared is x. Square root of x squared is x. Square root of y squared is y. Square root of y squared is y. Square root of y squared is y. Then you guys can see what's left over is 2 and the x. Now, I multiply all these to give me x times x times x, which is x cubed. Y times y times y is y cubed times the square root of 2x. So now we have simplified them. And now I can apply multiplication. And what we talked about multiplication is when you're multiplying, as long as the root is the same, meaning they're both square roots, they're both cube roots, or whatever it is, you multiply what is inside the radical, which we call our radicands. And then you multiply what is outside the radical. Yep.
so as long as what is the same?
As long as it's the square root, or both cube roots. As long as the root power is the same.
I got you down my keyboard.
So now I don't have anything to multiply 3 by, so that just remains there. X cubed times x squared is x to the 5th. Y cubed times y squared is y to the 5th. Then I have the square root, and I multiply inside. 2, I don't have anything to multiply the 2 by, so that just remains in there. X times x gives me x squared. And y times just nothing to multiply the y is going to be y. Now, you might say, all right, well, that's my final answer, right? However, we always look to, can we further simplify this? Well, I can take the square root of x squared, right? The square root of x squared is x. So I have 3x to the 5th times y to the 5th times x over the square root of 2y. And now I multiply x times x to the 5th, gives me a final answer of 3x to the 6th, y to the 5th times the square root of 2y. And that is your final answer.
Wait, your name.